So now our next panel is about all of us, because all the organizing organizations, because we've been asked by so many people, what are our challenges? So we're going to have a panel discussion, and we're going to have one question, and that's, what is your biggest challenge? And so may I invite up online, we should have Brendan Fyfe, St. Andrews, Toronto, Bob Giles, Detroit, St. Andrews, Kimberlee Bradford, St. Andrews, LA. Joining me up here, Gus Noble, Chicago Scots, Heather Mackenzie from SAWS, Charlie Sherwood, so many things, St. Andrews, Colorado, Scots Society, etc., COSCA as well, and John Bellassai, COSCA. Hello, everybody. Let's start. Why don't we start with Gus down the other end? And Gus, if you could tell us, what do you think is the greatest challenge you're having to deal with right now?
Getting out of bed in the morning. Can I first say to Henry that I've been at these conferences for 23 years. I've been to all of them, and the remarks we just heard, I think, were the best we've ever heard at these conferences. I spend a long time thinking about our values. And I think Henry's comments about, you could think of them as conditions that may be required for something equivalent of the Enlightenment to bring us all together and stop the house being divided. Vision and tolerance were very powerful. You used the word towards the end of your remarks that is what I think about most of all. And that was kindness. Kindness, I think, is as important as vision and tolerance, and maybe Jock, it's underpins the friendship that you were talking about as well. There's something very powerful in kindness, and at our recent St. Andrew's Day gala dinner, I was ever so proud to announce the biggest philanthropic gift we've ever received in our 179-year history. And that gift was made possible during a trip to Scotland with our major donor. We watched Chicago's own Rachel Barton Pine, one of the finest violin players in the world, perform with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra on stage at the Usher Hall in Edinburgh. She came off stage and immediately said to us, "Don't go anywhere. We're going to Sandy Bell's pub to play in the fiddle session." So we went from this very, very swanky Usher Hall concert to playing the most lively music in Sandy Bell's. And my donor had this huge smile on his face. And I thought, now's a good time for me to go and talk to him about It wasn't, because it was the day before Halloween, and he said to me, "Gus, we're both on a flight tomorrow to fly back to Chicago for my wife's Halloween party." And the moment I asked him for his support, I was dressed as Robert Mitchum from Night of the Hunter. He was dressed as Jack Nicholson from The Shining. It was the most surreal moment, but I've got a point here, I promise. It was a moment where we talked about kindness. And as I said, as we announced this gift, and by the way, the gift was $14 million. It's incredible. Thank you. I said to our community in Chicago, there's something powerful in kindness. And I say it to you now. There is kin in kindness. There is us in kindness. So I think if we can dream together about the future, we have the ability, we have those conditions to create something to stop the house from being divided if we're tolerant, if we have vision, and if we're kind. So that's what I think about on a daily basis. It's making sure that those in need are relieved. Your St. Andrew's Society and my St. Andrew's Society share the same motto: relieve the distressed. We've been at this for years and years and years. The return to values. You know, we can be born anywhere. We can have whatever ancestry precedes us, but it's really values that make us who we are. And the values I think that we all have, every Scottish identity is different, but there are some values that inform every Scottish identity. And I believe those values are a belief in education and critical thinking that comes out of the Scottish Enlightenment. It's enterprise, a belief in enterprise and entrepreneurialism that Russell and his colleagues at the Scottish Business Network and Scotland's incredible history of invention. It's driven by this entrepreneurial and enterprising spirit. And the third value I think that we all share is a belief in the equality of every individual and every opportunity that Robert Burns writes about so powerfully in A Man's a Man for All That. Our mission is to nourish Scottish identity. And I believe Scotland's identity and our identity as Scots is really a composite of those three values.
That's your challenge every day.
How do we nourish Scottish identity based on those values?
Wonderful. So, Charlie, adding on to that and the challenges you see in what you're doing up in the Northwest.
I'll be a lot more mundane than Gus, but I latched onto the word kin. We are all kin. And we need to learn, our organizations need to learn from each other's successes and failures. We need to learn mundane things like data management, membership management, accounting, and sharing with each other our ideas. And instead of being insular, a conference like this is an excellent resource. COSCA is an excellent resource. We need to share with each other. There's some organizations that say, well, we know how to do it. And we don't need to be part of a big organization because we already know. Well, you are the ones that are vital because you do know, and you need to share your successes and your failures with us. And I don't need to go expand any further than that. I will pass it on.
Doing the parades like this, or the charitable works that St. Andrew's societies do and clan societies do. So who's going to do that? Is all that knowledge and all that energy going to get lost? We can't let that happen. So the next generation is more than interested in engagement, but we have to meet them where they are. They're not going to do everything the way we did them. They're not going to use the same tools we use, much more technologically sophisticated than many of us are. We're going to have to meet them where they are if we want them to join with us in continuing what we're doing. That, I think, is the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge for all your organizations, people in Lions clubs, people in Masonic lodges, people in business, people in the nonprofit sector are all facing generational change. But for those of us in Scottish heritage, I think we have a special challenge to engage the next generation before it's too late. And the clock is ticking. That's it for me.
I think that point's one that we're very aware of, and all of us have been taught. That's why we try to include young Scots so much in the discussions as we did yesterday. And I think we all are trying to work out different ways to engage with them, because as you say, John, they view and want to be engaged in different ways, and they have challenges as young family members with different pulls on them. So we need to be thinking about that, how to make it affordable for them to help us at a game, set up a fund maybe to help towards their expenses, because driving 3 hours and doing all that, it does cost them something, and it does matter. So for me, and then we'll hopefully be back to our Zoomers, panelists. I believe it's very much what you were saying, Charlie, that we need to collaborate more. We need to share different strengths and different things, because I know at the American Scottish, we can't do it all alone. And we enjoy amplifying the messages of partners and hearing from them to tell us things that we know that our community would enjoy hearing about. But not everybody thinks that way. But I think it makes us all have a richer message for our community if we do that. So I'm now going to look over at our technical team and ask if we can bring up Kimberlee, Brendan, and Bob Giles. Are we able to do that yet?
Our challenges, first of all, there should be more than 24 hours in a day. That would be delightful. That's our biggest challenge, or mine in particular. Prioritizing, I would say, as to what's the most important thing, from events to charitable aspects. I would say prioritizing. You know, you always constantly have to work on your membership, events, even the education aspect, and even the engagement. What you do to engage, let's say your demographic, which might be 50-year-olds, isn't the same engagement that you would use or to engage individuals that are in their 20s. So there's a lot of varying scales of things. So I think prioritizing is one of the biggest challenges for myself and for our board. So yeah.
Okay, well, let me go then. I'll say this, that whoever you ask will have a different answer to this question, because it's such a complicated thing to run an organization with so many irons in the fire. We're doing so many things, even, when you think of how complex the Highland Games can be. So everyone will have a different answer to this question. It's either money, membership, Highland Games. Being relevant to members is a key one too. And, understanding what they want out of the organization. If you ask a younger person, they want something. It could be a contact with other younger members and not all the old folks who sit in the corner. It can be a lot of things to a lot of people. So you have to make sure that you are relevant to everybody. But, I think an overall thing is being relevant to the community and understanding that part of what we really have to do here is outreach. The Highland Games do that, but those are the people who go to the Highland Games. But being relevant to a larger extent is important. We do it in Detroit through our very generous benevolences. We give anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a year to local charities, and some in Scotland too. One of the interesting ones we added this year was Maggie's Dundee. And we mentioned Dundee earlier as an important issue for those of you in Alexandria. And we sent them a nice check for $1,000 this year. Anyway, what I'm saying is trying to be relevant. You can do it through a relevant, committee, if you want to say. But it's an issue that's hot. It's an issue that I think everyone deals with. Brendan, what's yours?
Thank you, sir. I think one of the most interesting challenges in Toronto has been that getting to agree on what the meaningful metrics are for the organization. And by that, I mean, based on what it was in the past, based on what it's going to be in the future. And I'll use membership as an example. Our membership has gone down over the years, but the attendance at all our events is way up. So to me, that's the sign of a healthy society. If you asked other people, to Bob's point, they would not necessarily agree. They would consider that membership is the leading indication of the health of the society. My personal opinion is it would be nice to have both, but I have to choose. I'll take more people at the events. And to me, it's kind of like if you buy a membership, but you don't go to anything, it's like buying a gym membership and never showing up. You're not getting the results that you need. So we've struggled, I think, with modernization as well, but I just would like to say that we've had a good hand in learning from the other organizations, particularly talking to Gus Noble in Chicago and Kimberlee in Los Angeles, and they've given us lots of direction about their success stories that we were able to mimic. So, I'm very optimistic about the path of our society, and I think the challenges we face are largely, first world challenges, things that we can solve, and getting more Torontonians interested in their Scottish heritage, I would say, is a huge priority for us in 2025.
Brendan and Bob and Kimberlee, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Mhm.
No? And I wanted to say just a couple of things about membership. And I'll quote, I spend a lot of time thinking about music as well. I'm a great lover of music. And John Lennon famously said that working class hero or Imagine is just working class hero with sugar on it. So how do you get your message across to people? John, you made the point that we have to go to people where they are. So I was thinking, what are the reasons somebody would join an organization like Chicago Scots? And we created, this is the sugar, the top 10 reasons to join Chicago Scots, a bit like David Letterman's top 10 list. And a young member of our team said, you need to film 2 videos. One that is the working class hero, the real reason to join. You can get into some meaty stuff, but you also need the sugar, which is a 20 to 30-second video that just frames it and it's fun. It can be consumed very easily. So I sat and thought, what are those top 10 reasons? And these videos, by the way, are available on all our social networks and on our website too. In no particular order, the top 10 reasons are community, care, history, travel, fun, mission, family, home, identity, and kindness. There's that word again. We recently formed a partnership with the National Trust for Scotland Foundation USA. Any member of the Chicago Scots is also by reciprocity a member of the National Trust for Scotland. And it has seen our membership increase markedly. We've had 4 or 5 people just in the last week since St. Andrew's Day sign up as life members, and they're responding to these reasons. So I offer that to everyone as we think about our membership.
I also think that younger people don't understand annual membership as well. And I know that you came up the other year, last year or the year before, with a program where you encourage people to just sign up and be a member and try it out. And at ASF, we've been saying to people who come to our events and or donate, through an auction, that they get a membership if they're not already one. I think we've got to think out of the box. The traditional thing of everybody becomes a member because they feel a good citizen isn't quite what happens. And also, don't you think they need, I think a lot of younger people like to think they're doing something and there's a result. So I do think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of the puzzle that I think we're all trying to solve, right? I think something that, so, when SAWS was founded, we took a lot of cues from our brothers in the St. Andrew Society of Washington, DC. So we set up a lot of kind of modeled our bylaws after theirs. And then as we worked through things, we started to change a few things to kind of suit more what we were doing. And for our membership, we actually encourage you to come try it out before you pay us any money or join or anything like that. We also have the 2 sponsor rule. So we have 2 members need to sponsor you. But the way you meet those members is going to our events and enjoying yourself and having a good time, so that you want to continue that relationship with us. So that's kind of how we're trying to draw people in.
So I think that our next panel is actually on one of, oh, we got a question. Hold on. What? No? Sorry. Okay. So our next panel is in fact going to be around the Highland Games. So, which is, I think, a good continuation of this whole thing. So, that will get us back on track. And we're going to sort of pour into that, a lot of what we were going to do in our youth panel as well. So, let's do a changeover, give you a few moments to get some coffee or get a drink, and also get ready techno wise. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everybody.
Oh, hello, and thank you to all the Zoomers, to Kimberlee, Brendan, and Bob.